Welcome to Selnar's Minis. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to put together a model. In the background, we have the instructions, and you should always have your instructions available for when you go to put your miniatures together if they come with them. In my hand currently is a sprue, and I am pointing out on the sprue that each of these parts has a number, and these numbers correspond onto the instructions. So we will want to be following along by clipping the parts that we need at that moment. You will need a pair of sprue clippers, a hobby knife, and super glue. To start off with, we're going to put the super glue and the hobby knife off to the side and take the cap off the sprue clippers. After that, we're going to grab the sprue and we're going to look at our instructions starting in the upper left corner. From there, we're going to start clipping the sprue pieces off. As you can see, there's a beveled edge and a straight edge, and we're going to put the straight edge next to the model, close to where the sprue touches the model, in order to prevent ourselves from accidentally clipping off parts that we need or want on the model. Cannot hear it here in this video, but it's always a satisfying clip when you get through the plastic. And we're just going to go around and clip all these individual contact points as close to the plastic as possible without actually gouging into the model itself. Sometimes this is quick, sometimes this takes a little bit of time. But you just go around and take as much time as you need. And then once we get it all off the sprue, what we're going to do is we're going to set our sprue clippers to the side, and we're going to take out our hobby knife, and we're going to start to clean up the contact points. Now, you're seeing me pull that knife towards me, and I'm going to tell you, like, I know everybody says, cut away from you, but you do actually have most of the time more control going towards you, but you do what is comfortable for you. I have, over the years, have gotten used to doing both away and towards and off to the side. But basically, the point of this is to go through and clean the plastic up. We're going to take and shave off those contact points, yet try not to gouge too deeply in the plastic as much as possible. We're also at this point going to take time to try to scrape some of the modal lines on this model. The modal lines on this model are not that bad, all things considered. And as you can see, here I am trying to keep it in focus for you to see what I'm doing. That is going to be kind of the ongoing thing currently. I'm actually not too bad in this video about making sure to keep it in focus. Again, we're just cleaning up these contact points and making sure that we are cleaning it up and not doing too much damage to the sculpt itself. The purpose of this, of course, is like when you go to prime it, you won't have these weird lines that you'll see when you prime or paint that look, well, unnatural, especially since you're trying to paint something that is a living thing and not a statue or a metallic item. And as you can see here, I'm using the flat of the blade to try to get rid of mold lines that are kind of jutting up out of the rest of the model. That's just basically taking the blade and scraping it back and forth on that line without too much pressure. You're basically just very gently shaving that off by doing that. Again, some more cleanup of the model at different various points. Just trying to clean it up so that there's a weird bump in the hair that shouldn't be there, or a weird bump on the shoulder that looks weird. This is just a lot of just cleanup. If you are a minor, have a guardian or your parent or another responsible adult nearby to supervise you while you're doing this, or if you don't feel comfortable in your minor doing this, you may have to do this step for them. Like I said, this model is from Dungeons and Lasers Kickstarter that I backed. It's a giant, so it's a little bit bigger, and I chose this model so it was easier to see kind of what I'm doing here, more opportunities to show you what I'm doing. Again, I'm just kind of scraping this, trying to get rid of any sort of like mold lines. These are basically little gaps in the mold where plastic managed to, sneak through and stay in place. So again, I'm just kind of looking over the model, trying to make sure I got everything as cleaned up as much as possible. I decided that this particular spot needed some more cleaning, so I went back and did some more scraping, and did that along the rest of the staff here. And I do believe that I went in and did the wraps as well, where there's a mold line as well. Yep, right here we go. Also where a contact point was as well, trying to clean that up a little bit more. So I decided to do this video because I've seen a lot of examples in which people got frustrated, rushed, didn't clean enough on the mold lines and at the contact points, and decided to sell the models or trade the models in because they didn't look the way they did in the picture. And a lot of that comes down to just inexperience or someone not telling you what you should be doing. So I figured that I would help people out and learn how to clean up their miniatures and put them together. They're not always going to be perfect when you're done, but that's what the other video that I posted earlier is about filling in gaps and priming and things like that. So this is just showing you all the things you need to do in order to make sure your model looks good. Again, some more scraping, trying to get, the mold line off. As you can see on my finger, that's the shavings from just scraping it. I'm not even like trying to cut it. I'm just scraping it, trying to get that stuff off and trying to make it as smooth as possible. Okay, moving on here. This is another important part. I have two parts here that I've clipped off that are in that instruction to make an orb. And I'm dry fitting them, and they are not going together very well. There's a pretty big gap, and that's probably because there is some plastic I need to shave off. And I do believe that I'm going to show you right here. Yep, you can see the plastic that's right there. That needs to come off. There's a couple other pieces of plastic on here that need to be cleaned off. Not that actual obvious ridge that my blade is next to, but some other pieces where the sprue had been attached to this model that just needed some more cleanup. Looking at that one, the other side as well, checking it. Off camera range, unfortunately. Okay, and taking a look at it again. Seeing if I need to clean up some more. I see now this piece of plastic right there. It looks like it needs to come off. Trying to get it, close together. Oh, dropped a piece because it's a small piece and it's slippery. Checking that one out as well. Okay, after shaving some more plastic off, we got a pretty good fit. It's pretty close, and I'm pretty happy with it. And then I did fit it into the staff as seen in the instructions, but did not glue it down. It's pretty still free rotating. I may change my mind on that later. And from there, I'm going to go on to the next step, which is clipping out the main body. Now, I left this in here. I know I've already shown you how to clip, but I'm just going to go through and do this again because it's good to see it, making sure that the flat edge is closest to the body of the model, and just going around and taking our time and just really looking at it and making sure we have a good spot to clip at and it's not awkward for ourselves. These ones are going through pretty quickly. I'm pretty happy with, the placement. And then I get to this one. And this is part of the reason why I left this in the video, is I wanted to show you that it's perfectly okay to move the sprue around to get a better contact point that is more ergonomic or friendly for you. You don't have to fight with the plastic in order to clip the model. Just clip it where it is most comfortable for you. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to just make sure I've clipped through everywhere. The model should have come out after that. Yep, and there we go. It's free. So I'm going to set that down and move the sprue off to the side. And I see a big piece of plastic that needs to come off from the clipping. I also see some contact points that need to be cleaned up. And we're just going to go around and we're going to clean these spots up. And the reason why I bring this up and why this is so important, maybe not so much on the hair where I'm going to clean here, but in other spots, is these clip-ins, these sprue contact points, if you don't clean them up, can cause some difficulty in trying to get these models together. Not so much, like I said, on the hair or on the side of the body where I showed, but, some of the other areas of the contact, may be where you need to push the model together in order to get it flush. And, jet knot plastic makes it hard to do that. So we're going to go around and we're just going to clean. And we're going to scrape and try to get it as nice as possible. I don't expect you to make it perfect. The other thing about, mold lines and sprue contact points is sometimes they are not in the best places. I, for the most part, try to clean these up as much as possible. And like here, I'm going to try to clean this up. And you're going to see me do something. You're going to see me cut the plastic on accident. And you know what? That's fixable. You can totally just scrape some more to get it out of there. See? Right there is where I did it. I'm like, oh, it's not plastic. It's just sitting there. So I just scrape it until it's gone. Most of the time, those little blemishes you will not see when you're done painting. Sometimes you do. Most people won't notice them. I find that the artist, aka the person who's painting the model, is the one who notices them more than other people. Sometimes they're big. And big ones are like if you have mold lines going across the face and you decide to try to clean that mold line up and you take the nose off. That will be noticeable by everybody. Sometimes you have to choose and pick your battle wisely. Hem of a skirt? Sure. Across the face? I sometimes leave those alone because I'm afraid that I'm going to remove the nose. So we got this big piece of plastic on the bottom. Again, this is an example of it's okay. No one's going to notice it. You will know about it because you watched my video. But basically, I'm going to try to clip this off, and I get a bit of a deep gouge in the foot. It's on the bottom of the foot. No one's going to see it. Just going to clean it up. You'll be fine. Those things happen. Again, just cleaning it some more. Love how the camera is focusing on my fingers versus the foot. Bring it down a little bit more so you can see a little bit more. But at this point, I'm already past that. From here, I went ahead and I cleaned the last spot I could find on the front half of this body. I just scraped it off, did a little bit of cleanup, and following the instructions, I went to go put the front and the back part together. It's always a good idea to dry fit these models just to make sure that they fit properly. Some models are snapped together, and I discovered that this is one of those type of models. I don't run into these very often, especially at this size. However, I still pulled it apart after fitting it together and glued it together. There is a noticeable gap. This gap can be fixed. That is covered in the first video that I put out on my channel. Go ahead and watch that so you can know how to take care of small gaps like that. And from there, I went on, and since I've already showed you how to clip these pieces off and clean them, I decided not to videotape that. Here I am dry fitting the leg to the body. I decide to do some glue at the points of where the rope touches the leg, and a little bit south of that. You want to do as minimal amount of glue as possible. I find that if you do too much glue, you end up gluing yourself to the model, which is never any good. From here, after this is connected, I moved on to the base. And the base is one of these places that definitely people will notice. any blemishes. So I'm going to go around, and I recommend that you do this anytime you have any bases that are integral to the model. The model has been designed on this base and people expect it to be on it. For whatever reason, if the base rim is uneven and has blemishes, mold lines, people notice. I don't know why, but they do. So I just recommend go ahead and clean up as much as possible, as best as you can. And then from here, we have the back skirt piece. And this is a good example of reason why you should dry fit everything. As you can see, I'm pointing there. We have that next. I'm going to go ahead and clip it off. And what happened at this point was at the dry fitting, I noticed that it would not come together nicely. There was not a small gap, but a large gap between the body and the skirt, and it was very noticeable. To fix this, I ended up trimming the pegs that go into the joint. This is not something that I would think most new modelers would do, or even some more experienced models would do. But don't be afraid to try these things, especially if you think that the problem is the peg is too long. Just trim it down. It's okay. Again, no one's going to notice it but you. In this case, it reduced the gap significantly, and I was left with a small gap, along with a small gap in the hair to fix later. Again, go check out the video on how to fix gaps and priming. And, I ended up doing the shoulder pad and the mask off camera so that I could keep this video a little bit shorter. Again, I'm kind of new at this, and I don't want to make them too long. I want to make them worthwhile for you. So, again, enjoy. I was pretty happy with the way this turned out. Small gaps are easy to fix. You can just do what I do in normally, which is use a little bit of matte varnish to fill them in and then prime them. And most of the time, you can't even notice them. Again, you can watch the video on that and learn there. Piece in the mask there. But basically, all the gaps that we have are in the hair and on the right-hand side hip. Again, those can be fixed.